Let's Go Brandon Johnson completely caves to a budget that his council came up with that he calls morally bankrupt. But you know what's not happening in Chicago? Yeah, a city shutdown. Let's Go Brandon Johnson. You did the right thing. It might be morally bankrupt, but he's gonna walk both sides and say, yeah, I'm gonna approve it, but I'm not gonna approve it. One of those deals. Let's get into it. Here we go. This kind of came down to a game of chicken, right? Yeah, you got a semi with illegal with no CDL, and you got the other person coming straight on, and who blinks first, right? Mayor Brandon Johnson backs down will not veto City Council's alternate budget. He also won't outright endorse it either. It's morally bankrupt. Let's watch a couple of videos. Here we go.
Good afternoon. Well, this definitely wasn't expected. While he will not veto this budget, he's not signing off on it either. He says he doesn't want Chicagoans to worry about a city shutdown.
Why not sign it? You got 98% of what you wanted.
Well, because there are some elements of this budget that, quite frankly, I don't want to give a signal to the people of Chicago that I support what I believe is one of the most detrimental and immoral aspects of this budget. You know, many people talk about sending the wrong signal to corporations. I can hardly wait till we have politicians in this city, in this state, in this country that are more concerned about the signals that we send to working people than big corporations and the ultra rich.
Big signals that you're sending to the constituents of Chicago, like the constituents in North Lawndale, who had almost 100% increase in their property taxes. The constituents in West Garfield had 133% increase in their property taxes. Because you can't balance a budget, because you've pushed all of the businesses out of the downtown core, your own assessor has basically said as much. Hey, there's no businesses in downtown Chicago, so somebody's got to pick up the lost revenue, and so it ends up being those who can afford it the least, the ones that Let's Go Brandon Johnson is babbling on about here, and not recognizing that by going with an anti-business stance, you are basically shifting all of that tax burden onto the very constituents that you say you're trying to protect. It's mental. It's literally not understanding or not willing to look at the big picture and just diving ahead and saying, our ideology is correct. Ignore the facts. Ignore the facts that people are just being absolutely bent over and screwed in Chicago from a tax basis standpoint. And let's go with this whole moral high ground nonsense, right? And then you got a bunch of wingnuts in Chicago. Oh, yeah, Brandon Johnson saying bad stuff about corporations. You need to be encouraging them, but you're not gonna. And you know what? I'm just gonna have podcast after podcast after podcast, because that's what we're doing here. Let's keep going.
Now, also happening today, Mayor Johnson signing off on 2 executive orders. One is the fair recovery of prohibiting sale of medical debt. It forbids the city from selling medical debt owed by
Chicago's got a couple of billion of outstanding debt that they can't seem to collect on. A couple of billion. Weren't we talking about a budget deficit of $1.1 billion here? I mean, okay. All right.
By individuals and establishes fair public interest standards for how any city owed debt may be recovered. Secondly, Mayor Johnson capping police overtime spending. This will establish a framework which sets clear guidelines and procedures for authorizing overtime spending, which exceeds the cap set in annual appropriation ordinances, and ensuring public accountability and transparency through the executive order and legislative oversight.
It is important to immediately clarify these positions today with executive orders as we keep the North Star of equity at the forefront of our values.
The North Star of equity that is pushing you into bankruptcy. That North Star? All right. Is that your guiding light? Is that you're the wise men and you're looking up at the sky and you're being guided by the star and you're going to Jesus? Is that what we're doing? Except your end goal is bankruptcy, because that's where you're headed with this kind of just delusional nonsense. right? I mean, that's where you're going. And I'll podcast it every step of the way because you're getting there. You're getting there. But let's keep the delusion going, right?
These are the first clarifications that are issued regarding the 2026 budget.
Are getting their preferred budget despite some major pushback from the mayor.
Mayor Johnson declining to sign or veto the budget, letting it instead take effect on its own. He calls it morally bankrupt. Political reporter Tumon Bradley joins us to explain all this. Tumon?
And Lourdes, while we were waiting for the mayor to either sign or veto the budget, who knew there was a third path? Today, the mayor celebrated the budget that he did not sign, even though it had, in his words, 98.4% of what he wanted. Chicago's epic budget battle ends with Mayor Johnson backing down. This morning, from his ceremonial office, the mayor announced he'll neither sign nor veto an alternative plan passed by City Council. The budget will take effect January 1st.
In this moment, I will not add the risk and speculation of a government shutdown to the profound worries Chicagoans face.
In a stunning, unprecedented rebellion,
they're worried about how they're going to pay their effing taxes. That's what they're worrying about. You put a city shutdown on top of that? It's kind of the least of their worries. But, whatever.
City Council members got together and tweaked the mayor's revenue proposal, dumping a monthly per-person tax on large corporations.
Good.
Instead, Alders passed a package that legalizes slot machines in bars and restaurants, raises by 5 cents the grocery bag tax, and increases some liquor taxes. Stuck now with the alternative.
Okay. All right. Run some gambling. You know what I mean? If you want to piss your money away, go for it. I don't think that's great, and I don't think it's a great example. Hey, let's just legalize gambling. Tax on booze, okay? So then people are just going to go to the burbs that are just outside of Chicago, and those liquor stores are just they're going to do swell, right? So, I mean, but you're going to have to make some change-ups to how you get there, and City Council has. So as long as they don't have that ridiculous head tax, $33 per month per employee with companies over 500 employees, I think that's what the proposal was, which was just basically slit your own throat, Chicago, because nothing says we don't really want to set up business here than a $33 a month per employee tax. That's what you're telling business. Don't come to Chicago and set up business. And you've already had 10, 12,000 businesses leave Chicago. So there's that, right?
Plan. The mayor signed 2 executive orders. One, prohibiting the city from selling residents' medical debt to collections agencies. The other, new oversight of police overtime spending.
If those city council members are not looking out for working people, then I'm happy to do it on the working people's.
And you are, let's go, Brandon Johnson. I mean, this doesn't exactly scream we're looking out for the little guy by any means whatsoever. When you are, because this whole thing is just so misguided. You need the tax revenue of businesses. You need big corporate. And Chicago used to have that. Chicago used to be one of those cities that just brought it in. But because of progressive ideology and just mental stupidity based on policy, this is where you end up with Let's Go Brandon Johnson saying, morally bankrupt. Yeah, at least you're not having a city shutdown.
Flanked by members of the coalition that propelled him into office, including Chicago Teachers Union President Stacey Davis Gates.
We are undergoing a generational transformation in the city of Chicago.
The mayor declared.
And it's called a one-way train to bankruptcy, insolvency. That's where you're headed. That's where you're going. It's inevitable. There is no way out of this, given current trends of, hey, let's just keep voting more and more progressive because this is going to work out somehow. I mean, the logic, the reasoning is absolutely astounding. Again, I don't live in Chicago, but for the people who do, that's where I'm like, This isn't going to go well. This isn't going to be good. Washington State, same thing. We've got a governor who says, yeah, tax the rich. Tax the rich. Tax the absolute F out of people making over, $1 million a year. Tax them. 5% tax. Just tax them. And that telegraphs to businesses, we don't want you here. You got a business, got a bunch of wealthy people that are, doing well. They create a lot. They do a lot for the economy. That doesn't come cheap, right? Doesn't come cheap. Got to pay $1 million, whatever that number is. Tax them. It's a state income tax. We're getting a state income tax in Washington State. There's no way around it. Same liberal, progressive ideology. Progressive revenue. Tax rich people, tax businesses. And then they all go away. And then, we've got a desert. There's a population desert of people paying taxes. What happened?
Declared victory, standing at the entrance of the 5th floor suite.
It feels like just a few years ago where this entire coalition stood on the other side, looking at the mayor's office, demanding the very things that we want in this budget.
Alders who led the rebellion against Johnson's revenue have a different view. They see a paradigm shift in the mayoral-council relations.
He then had a choice, and maybe he didn't think his choices were good ones, sign it or veto it, and somehow he picked an even worse option, one that showed no leadership at all, and that was to simply do nothing. We have shown that.
That is so true. Okay, you got two options here. Let's go, Brandon Johnson. Sign it. Veto it. Oh, you decide we're not going to do anything. We're just, no, we created option C, which is, it's not an option, but it's what Let's Go Brandon Johnson is going with, right? This is what he's going with. This is his statement. I'm choosing an option that isn't available. All right. Okay. Yeah. What are you saying to your constituents?
That we city council will take the lead on him with or without Mayor Johnson.
Good.
The coalition that passed the budget admits that more government efficiencies and maybe even cuts will be needed moving forward. They also expect Mayor Johnson to try again to pass a corporate head tax, Lourdes.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's no question. There is no question a head tax is going to come to Chicago one way or the other. There's no question more taxes are in order because when you have all these businesses leaving, somebody's got to pay the bills or not. And those are your options. Tax the heck out of the constituents or shut the city down from a financial standpoint, declare bankruptcy. That bond rating goes to Bernie Madoff status, right? I love the morally bankrupt part. What part of it, which morals were undermined? Which morals were undermined here? I mean, honestly, what are you talking about? But he did stave off political gridlock. Okay. All right. And the risk of an unprecedented government shutdown. I did not think that would happen. I just didn't. I thought one side would cave. I didn't know which side it would be. But hey, you know what? I think the good guys won on this one. Because Let's Go Brandon Johnson, he is hell-bent on running this city into the ground. And he is doing a stupendous job to date of getting there. Johnson's team announced the decision first to camera operators and photographers welcomed into his ceremonial office Tuesday. You're not going to release that to the press first, huh? Just camera operators and photographers, hey, you take pictures. Let's talk to you first. I mean, okay. Without a veto, the alternative spending plan will go into effect by default, Johnson's team said, so that he has a clean conscience and he doesn't have to deal with what he considers moral bankruptcy. Such high, lofty ideals that aren't really grounded in reality. How are you going to pay those bills when you push even more businesses out of Chicago, which is what is happening? How are you going to pay those bills? Well, you're going to have to tax anybody who's left, any businesses that are left. By not vetoing the budget, Johnson solidifies the will of 30 alders, mostly moderate and conservative. Hey, Chicago, good. Great for you. That's the direction you want to head. You got to get past this numbnuts here that's in charge. who took control of this year's budget process and passed the spending portion of their rival plan on a rare Saturday council meeting. They basically just took over and said, we've got to lead because our leader is taking us down such a crazy train path that it's a no-go. It's a no-go for you folks in Chicago following the lead of Let's Go Brandon Johnson. That ain't going to pan out well for you. The budget nixes Johnson's $82 million head tax on large firms in favor of hiking the tax. All right, here's what we talked about. Off-premise alcohol. Okay, you're gonna push that. All right. I mean, I'm against any taxes, but if you're gonna do something, a sin tax. I talked about my son the other day saying Zyn, those pouches with tobacco or nicotine, no tobacco that you don't have to spit. What is the point? Yeah, I'm just gonna put a little bit of nicotine in there. All right, I get it. I'm just old school. But Washington State is going to put a 95% tax on Zyns. 95% tax. Just boop, double. And you know what? They're going to get away with it because people are like, shouldn't be doing nicotine right to the bloodstream. You're bad people. And meanwhile, they're drinking something, I got my booze on the reservation, no taxes. Increasing the plastic bag fee. Okay. All right. Why do we have such a hard-on for plastic bags? Every time I turn around, somebody's like, oh, you can't get a bag here anymore. There's no plastic bags. What did I buy? I bought a $1.50 reusable bag from Half Price Books last night. I was Christmas shopping. And I'm like, yeah, give me the bag. I had like 6 books. I had six books. I didn't want to carry them around. We're still doing some more shopping. So I got a $1.50 bag. Remember when they used to just give you bags? Just, here you go. Here's a bag. We're going to give you a paper bag. Trays, renewable. Selling ad space on city light poles and bridge houses. All right. Legalizing video gambling at bars and restaurants. I happen to know, on this podcast, I've had my buddy Dan, and the amount of money that he makes on pull tabs should be illegal. Owning the pull tab machines. I see the guys sitting down at the portion of the bar where they're just looking up at the pull tabs, and they're like children mesmerized at Christmas with all the presents in front of the tree. Like, I'm going to take one of those. I'm going to take one of, and I don't know the numbers. And you know what? The house always wins. Yeah, you might win every now and then, but if you ran the numbers, those are not good gambles. You might as well be a small business owner. You know what I mean? Just really throw those dice. Hey, or get married. Hey, let's roll the dice, see how this goes. 50-50. If somebody gave you a parachute and said, all right, we're going to send you 15,000 feet off the ground, and you got a 50-50 with this parachute, all right, good luck with that. Would you take it? Yeah, probably not. But anywho, go ahead, get married. And selling Chicagoans' unpaid debt to private collectors. All right. Those revenue streams will also help the city make a full advance pension payment, a policy lauded by credit rating agencies. Oh, okay. Because they've got this pension issue, right? They got a whole bunch of issues that are just kind of hanging out there. Johnson shrunk the advance pension payment in his initial budget proposal amid a $1.2 billion budget gap. And how much did Chicago spend on the criminal illegals? $2.5 billion? Something like that? Some number north of $2 billion with a B? All right. But we got a $1.2 billion budget gap, and we've got issues with the pension payment? Okay. All right. Morally bankrupt? Teachers union in there? You betcha. But the city's budget director and chief financial officer have said that the council's rival proposal is based on faulty revenue projections. You guys are off. You're not doing your math right. You're not working it through, guys. And will leave a $163 million budget gap. All right. It's not $1.2 billion though. So, it's better. You're not going to fully bleed out. You're going to bleed a little bit, but not all the way out. $163 million, just throw that on the constituent. How about we just tax all mini marts? I'm just throwing out arbitrary taxation. Let's just, mini marts, I'm just saying something to say something, right? Tax. Because that's kind of how it goes, right? What are we doing? Oh, we're going to allow video gambling. Okay. Maybe it's a genius plan. I'm not really sure. That could require mid-year layoffs, furloughs, a hiring freeze, or cuts in 2026. All right, more podcasts to come. 𝗪𝗪𝗠𝗧𝗛 veto would have pushed the city to the brink of a government shutdown. That's what everybody is pointing to, right? And I kind of pulled back from that a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, they're going to work something out. They just will. There's no way. There's no way these two sides are gonna go there. And you know what? Let's go, Brandon Johnson. Just I'm going to cave, but I'm not going to sign off either. I'm going to stand on both sides of the fence and say, I'm a leader. Without a spending plan come January 1st, city wouldn't be able to pay workers or contractors. That would have been exciting. Coalition of Alders, who seized control of the budget process, had also scheduled the December 29th meeting specifically to override Johnson's veto. They're going to get together. They had a plan. This coalition of council members is doing a good job considering what they have to work with leadership at the tippy top, which is, let's go, Brandon Johnson. They maintained confidence so that they could muster a 34-vote veto-proof majority to do so. They had their ducks in a row for the most part. You had some votes in there where you're like, they're not going to get the majority that they need. You know, some politics, this isn't really going in the right direction. But, at the end of the day, I think this is good. You know what? I know this is good for the people of Chicago, but it's only one quick blip because you've still got all kinds of stuff to work on with Let's Go Brandon in charge. And you've got some real fundamental flaws, as many cities do right now, on how you're going to keep the lights on in a lot of different departments when you've got downtown cores that are hollowed out with that whole work from home thing and the impact that's had. And then basically soft on crime policies, let people just run around downtown core. And then this massive push across the United States of progressive revenue, tax big business, tax wealthy people. It's just going to push people from blue states to red states. And you know who's going to be left? The people that can't afford to move. The people who are paying the highest in tax increases right now in Chicago. The Let's Go Brandon Johnson says, these are my people. This is who I'm protecting. I'd listen to the city council here. This is one of those times where I'm like, you know what? I'd probably go with the city council because at least they got this together, right? I'm not going to agree with everything they're doing or saying, but at least they got this together. You didn't have a city shutdown. So, hey, Chicago, that's a win. That's a win. That's all I'm going to say. All right. That's it for me. Hey, I hope you enjoy your holiday season, whatever that looks like. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all that stuff. Happy New Year. And I'll see you on more. Thanks for joining. Bye for now.